Hi, welcome back to Memory Protection. It's an Apple News podcast set 20 years ago. Today, we're looking back to October 2000. I'm Josh McGett.
Blah.
Blah. I'm Josh McDeath. And I'm joined by my co-ghost.
Co-ghost.
Count Matula.
Hello, Josh. How are you?
I'm not great. You killed my entire family.
Yes. Yes, I did.
No, they're all creatures of the night.
Creatures of the night.
Hear their beautiful music.
What sweet music they make. Yep.
Yes. And what sweet, sweet podcast we shall make today.
Making it great.
We got a huge show coming up for you folks. Full of great content, lots of good topics. All right, I'll catch you on the other side.
Beep, beep, boop, beep, beep, boop.
All right.
Josh, I've been having some problems with my GPBoo processors. Get it?
Back, creature of Satan.
Moving right into hot cocoa.
First up, Quake 3 for OS X is now available.
Hell yeah. You pumped, Josh?
I am. I was especially pumped to learn who ported the game.
Yeah, our old friends at the Omni Group. Port
What?
Wizards, apparently.
Yeah, apparently they spent a lot of time porting games, mostly pro bono at first.
Yeah, because I think they just wanted to see those games on the Mac.
Omni Group, if you don't know, are known today for making apps like OmniFocus and OmniGraffle.
Up next, Apple releases the official OS X software compatibility list. So apparently, Apple claims that there's 100,000 OS X beta users. So they decided to produce a list of all of the software that has been ported over to Mac OS X. And
There are tens of products.
There's 290 something.
Oh, okay.
There are 261 OS X ready applications available for the Mac already. Can you believe it? He's speechless, folks.
Someone else is going to be ready too. Netscape 6 is getting closer to release.
Yeah, Netscape, after a long delay and skipping an entire major version, is finally going to release next month, 20 years ago, November 2000.
Key features include a redesigned user interface, address book syncing, and major improvements to the What's Related section of the app.
Apparently, the sidebar is getting over 600 tabs that you can add to it, which seemed like a lot. And they have the last paragraph of this press release goes on to say the new shopping tab gives internet shoppers instant access to over 50 different shopping departments, ability to search from a list of over XXX products, and information on some hot shopping deals. So they were so excited to release this press release and then announce that Netscape 6 was getting close to release, they forgot to include the number of products that you could search for.
Ship it.
Don't ship it. Ship the announcement.
Speaking of shipping things.
Apple held its second annual QuickTime Live conference, and they announced QuickTime 5. Are you excited?
I mean, it is the most important application to memory protection.
Yeah, that is true. It is.
It's the core of everything we do.
It's holding the entire podcast together right now. So they announced QuickTime 5, and they released a preview version. There's a bunch of new features, but I think they killed the drawer in this one.
The drawer is dead. Long live the drawer.
Yep. So QuickTime's dead to me now. Hey, Josh, you ever steal music off the internet in the early 2000s?
I actually did not. I was a good boy.
You liar.
No, I always let other people do it for me, and then I would take their music.
I see.
To this day, I don't know how to steal music.
You're keeping your hands clean.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, if you were a little dirty boy, And you were on the OS 10 beta.
On the Macintosh.
Little Macintosh dirty boy.
No, thank you.
I'm going to call you Dirty Boy Macintosh from now on. Hi, welcome back to Memory Protection. I'm Dirty Boy Macintosh. Oh, man. I don't know where I was, but Napster, if you were into stealing music, they released their first client for OS 10. So you can steal music and stay technologically up to date.
This port was written by Black Hole Media, which sounds like something familiar, but I couldn't find any information on it.
That doesn't sound familiar to me, but, you know, it was a long time ago.
Finally, a good console to talk about.
You like this one?
PlayStation 2 hits the market on October the 26th.
And the world was never the same.
That's true. The McGraths finally had a DVD player.
Oh, did you get one early on?
Not early on, but I did eventually get one. And it's true that I've never owned a discrete DVD player. I've always had a PlayStation of some sort.
And this is where it started for you.
Yep.
Wow.
I could finally watch that copy of The Italian Job that someone bought for my birthday like 3 years prior. Well, folks, we're moving on a good clip right here, and we better slow down because we don't have very much to talk about today.
No, slow down there, partner.
Whoa! Who's that? Who just strolled through the saloon doors?
Hey, everybody, it's me, your old pal, Chip History.
Chip History.
I've been gone for a while, but I'm back today. Back from the future.
The future?
Hell yeah, the future.
The distant future of the year 2001.
Yeah.
What do you got for us today, Chip?
Well, today we're going to talk about Apple computer.
Okay, that's good. On brand.
That's what you guys usually do around here, right? Except for that one time you awkwardly shifted to a Windows-focused podcast.
Yeah, the last time you were here, technically speaking.
You shut your mouth, dirty boy Macintosh. Today we're talking about Apple. We're talking about nVidia.
Really?
Oh, hell yeah.
You talking about the GPU company of fame?
GPBoo at Halloween.
Stop trying to make GPBoo a thing.
Chip History out. GPBoo.
Man, you just missed Chip History was here.
Oh, man, I had to go to the bathroom. I can't believe it. Was he wearing his cool cowboy hat?
Yep, and nothing else, like usual.
Oh, gross.
It's a little dirty boy Macintosh. I don't know how many of these I'm going to keep in, but...
I mean, the more the merrier. That way you can either cut them all or use at least one of them.
Yes, in case it wasn't clear from whatever that was, we're going to be talking about Apple and nVidia today.
So Apple and nVidia have had a little bit of a tumultuous history. They have... Apple has hired nVidia, and nVidia has made mistakes, and nVidia has pissed off Apple, and Apple has fired nVidia. And we're going to talk about all of that today.
Yes, one of the great will they, won't they's of Silicon Valley. So to set the scene a little bit, we're, of course, in the year 2000.
It was a dark and stormy night.
Just like tonight.
And there was nothing left but a hook in the door.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, Halloween. Boo.
Yeah, that's right, remember?
I keep forgetting. To start things off, we should talk about GPUs. and where their place was in the tech scene at this point. You had companies like ATI being formed in the late 80s, followed by, their would-be competitors 3DFX and of course nVidia, as well as some lesser-known favorites of memory protection like Matrox. And these companies were formed because their founders believed that the next generation of computers would require different hardware. See, up to this point, most graphics work had been done through the CPU only, and the founders of these companies believed that discrete hardware used for graphics acceleration was where things were going to go. And of course, that is where it went. And so for the 90s, going into the time period we're in right now, you saw the proliferation and development of graphical processing units, which GPU, by the way, is a term coined by nVidia.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, there was a lot of, I think ATI tried to call them VPUs, but that didn't stick.
That sucks.
And GPUs, discrete GPUs in computers was not a sure thing at first, and especially with Apple. But when Steve Jobs came back, he made a decision that new Apple computers were going to focus on using discrete GPUs. That's especially true for OS X, where it wasn't just going to be used for games, it was going to be used for the entire operating system.
Now that we've seen OS X revealed, you can see that the sort of fruits of that plan. Now with the announcement and release of the OS X beta, that Steve's plan to get GPUs into the next generation of computers was a smart decision. Right.
And up to this point, Apple did have a relationship mainly with ATI to put GPUs in their Power Macs. But that is where we enter the story. As we highlighted in July this year, just before Macworld, before the keynote speech, ATI decided it would be a good idea to leak that their Radeon cards were going to be in the new Power Mac G4s, which of course enraged Steve Jobs, causing him to scrub any mention of them from the keynote, from any of the advertising, and more or less remove them as an option for a while.
Yeah, and he also burns their headquarters down.
Yeah. Not a lot of people know about that. And I bring this up because it's an early example of Apple having a sort of tense relationship with their third-party vendors. Obviously, we've talked about this before in other chip history segments. See also the episode about CPUs.
Yeah, I was on that one. Chip history.
Thank you, Chip.
Yeah.
But just to set the theme, the history of Apple and nVidia is akin to Apple's history with any of its third-party vendors, which is they don't like being let down, and eventually that leads them to find a different path.
Yeah, almost always. Anytime, I think Apple is a company, I think we've talked about this before. Apple is the kind of company that knows exactly what it wants out of its products. And if it is disappointed or let down, it goes and finds the answer somewhere else. We saw that with we talked about that on Chip History 2, PowerPC to Intel, and now in the same episode, Intel to Apple Silicon. And we've seen this sort of transition, or it's not a transition, but the dissatisfaction they have with their hardware partners manifest in them making new choices and new hardware partners, and I think ultimately rolling their own, right?
Yes, and which in this case will set up a funny twist, but we'll get to that.
It's the twist ending. Stay for the twist ending.
So not 6 months later, in January of 2001, Apple announces that
learn how to say the word 2001.
2000. Boo thousand.
Booth.
So not 6 months later, in January 2001, Apple released their first Mac with a nVidia graphics card. That's the Power Mac G4 update. I think it's the HD audio version. And it had the GeForce 2 MX. And while there were still ATI options for builds, for the next couple years at least, there would always be an nVidia card in most Macs.
Yep. And this is probably a result of what they could get at the time. And I mean, speculation, but Steve Jobs just being pissed that ATI spoiled his keynote.
Yeah, and we'll find as we go. And then it's an interesting aspect of the story is that Apple doesn't always go. I mean, this is obvious to anyone who's paying attention. Apple doesn't always go with the most powerful option for any of their piece of their hardware.
Right.
Often that's an economic decision. But as we'll see, sometimes it's an emotional decision because the road is beginning to get rocky. In September 2004, there were rumblings of trouble in paradise. nVidia wasn't able to produce enough 6800s, which was the GPU that was going to make Apple's new 30-inch cinema display possible. And so Apple had to delay the monitor. But this is sort of this is small beer.
Yeah, Apple can handle a 30-inch cinema display.
Delay. Yeah,
but they pretty upset about what happened after May 2007. This is sort of the first, that was preamble to main event number one. Main event number one being from May to September of 2007, Apple sold a number of MacBook Pros with some bad NVIDIA GPUs in them. The MacBooks started experiencing video problems, and then that sort of led them to discern that all these problems were linked to the NVIDIA GeForce 8600M GT GPUs. That's a mouthful.
Beautiful. Apple did end up having to replace a lot of those cards for free. And though NVIDIA footed some of that bill, Apple was not happy about this.
Yeah, it's sort of, what did they determine the problem? It was like the solder bumps were faulty or something like that? Yeah,
it was something about the contacts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun fact, this was my first Mac.
No way.
I had the 15-inch MacBook Pro from 2008.
Did you have NVIDIA GeForce problems?
Looking back, I think I actually did. There was summer of 2009. I was staying in my first apartment, and I was doing I had a job at the student like software development group I've mentioned before. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was sitting at my laptop, and it started checkerboarding.
Oh yeah,
you ever seen that?
Mm-hmm.
So if you can imagine like a checkerboard pattern where alternating squares are the correct pixels and the off squares are like just grainy, totally off. And I had lots of issues, and I remember I sent it into the shop after it black screened, like nothing was happening. And they sent it back to me and said, it looks fine, worked for me. And it did. It just started working again randomly.
Oh, maybe they fixed it.
This computer this is the MacBook Pro directly before the unibody switchover.
Yeah.
So it still had that all silver finish. Mm-hmm. And I had this laptop for a long time. I put it through real beating. I used to like render After Effects on it. And I remember I played Portal 2 on it, and I had to point a fan at the laptop to keep it going. So I apparently had a very small version of this GPU problem, if I had it at all.
That's pretty good. So Apple sort of had to foot the bill for this. So in an article we'll post in the show notes, Apple essentially repaired it for free, and if you had experienced the issue and paid for it, they refunded you your repair costs.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's in that Ars Technica article.
So this was not great, but Apple still wanted to work with NVIDIA. They had a good relationship, and part of that was because of the technology that NVIDIA was giving them. So they really liked what they were doing with their chipsets. Intel was not such a big fan.
Yeah.
And they actually ended up suing NVIDIA over some competition problems.
What kind of competition problems?
Oh, I'm glad you asked for specifics, Matt, because I know them.
Sorry, I don't. And you posted this article, so I'm asking.
Basically, Intel and NVIDIA had a separate licensing deal that said that nVidia couldn't make chipsets that competed with Intel's own chips. So when they're in these Apple computers, they were creating chipsets that integrated with the Intel CPUs and their memory. And for some reason, Intel did not like that. And they ended up settling with a $1.5 billion deal about 9 years ago. So 2011.
Yep.
Why is this important to Apple? Because it really put their relationship with NVIDIA in murky water. It was very unclear whether or not NVIDIA was going to be able to keep building the chips that Apple had been using with them. And it put the roadmap in question.
And Apple wants only reliability.
Which is fair.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I think that is fair.
And things pretty quickly devolved from there.
I like your note in 2013 to 2014. NVIDIA pulls some shenanigans.
Yeah. Apple and NVIDIA still have a relationship at this point, but it basically breaks down over the next couple months. Although we don't know actual specifics, insider information tells us that they had some meetings that ended with some heated words. It was reported in July that a particular negotiation meeting had NVIDIA being arrogant and refusing to take culpability for certain things and asking for too much. And of course, we don't have specifics on this. It's a lot of like insider information and guesswork, but the end result is that Apple showed NVIDIA the door.
You might say NVIDIA was chip history to Apple.
Oh, damn.
I'll be here all week.
He won't leave.
I'm living in your basement now. Now we enter the mobile era. Chip history style.
Yes, thank you, Chip.
Hell yeah.
And obviously the iPhone came out in 2007, ushering in a new era of computing.
Yep.
With the new hardware needs. Now, we all know that Intel missed out on the mobile CPU market, but
in a big way.
It's also important to note that NVIDIA and AMD, for that matter, also missed out on the mobile GPU market.
I thought NVIDIA was hot on the Tegra train. Isn't that what the Nintendo Switch is made out of?
Yeah, but they were kind of late on that.
I mean, Nintendo Switch, like best-selling console of all time.
Well, in fact, you're right that the Tegra did end up being important in the mobile space. And it was, in fact, supposed to power Apple's mobile devices, starting with some sort of video iPod and perhaps even the iPhone. But the first Tegra didn't end up being shipped until 2009. So it was too late for the iPhone.
Yeah, 2000 late.
So NVIDIA really missed the boat. So they did the second best thing to actually having a product, which is they had patents.
Who doesn't love patents?
In 2013 through 2014, NVIDIA started just a licensing program for their mobile technologies, which they also ended up finding was probably being used in a lot of existing products, if you think about it. And they asked Apple to pay a license fee, to which Apple said no.
Yeah, go fuck yourself.
Pound concrete.
Go suck an egg.
Go jump in a lake. Now, I believe personally that this sort of ends the first era of their relationship, which I think is mostly marked by NVIDIA screwing up.
You know, I don't think that based on what we read about the MacBook GPU issues that NVIDIA acted in bad faith. They just had some manufacturing problems. And while that isn't an excuse for NVIDIA to behave poorly, they didn't really sort of turn the tide with Apple in the intervening years.
No, and in fact, they actually may have undersold the scope of that issue to Apple, which is part of the problem, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I take your point, though, that they did a lot of damage over these few years and then, threw a lot of salt into those wounds.
Right.
I think it's really good to know this because it sort of leads us to present day problems where often Apple gets represented as a little bit unreasonable in their relationship with the company.
Sure. I think this second problem, it's not entirely clear what the motivation is, but I think the history that we just described helps inform some of Apple's decision making, and what we know is to come with Apple informs this decision as well. So a couple years ago, Apple decided that they would no longer allow nVidia to create video drivers for Mac OS X, starting with the release of Mojave, which was 10.14.
Right. And you might ask, like, well, why do you care? Like, can you even put a GPU in a Mac?
Yep.
And of course, there are still, we don't call them Power Macs anymore.
No, you call them PowerBooks.
I love we've been corrupted by this show.
I know.
What are they called? Mac Pros.
Yeah.
But of course, there are Mac Pros still. And many people, like me, for a time used older Mac Pros like the 2012 cheese grater.
Yeah.
And sort of kept upgrading their hardware because it was really easy to do and not that expensive. And you could have a really good machine based on that older platform.
Mm-hmm.
This issue ended up actually affecting me because I had an nVidia GPU and I wanted to use Mojave and it just wasn't going to work. So I ended up switching.
Did you go AMD?
No, I went with Matrox.
As you do.
For good graphics, choose Matrox.
Out of the box, choose Matrox.
I like that one. Chip history approved. And there's been a lot of back and forth on this issue, a lot of pointing of blame, but ultimately it does sort of fall at the feet of Apple because they have to be the ones to accept the drivers that nVidia can and did write. Right.
So why in 2018 would Apple decide we don't want nVidia writing drivers for our platform anymore?
Maybe they know where things are going.
Maybe they've been secretly working on a project that leverages all of the GPU work that they've been working on in their mobile devices for years.
Yes. Widely lauded and extremely performant chips that they've sort of developed themselves using licensed technology from ARM.
Yeah, and some of this is speculation. What I think, and I think is what you think, but Apple is going to release a new line of Apple Silicon based Macs, and they're going to use their own GPUs in it. And after a span of a couple years, Apple is only going to be selling Apple Silicon Macs with Apple's GPUs in it. So it may not have been an intentional sort of like stake to the proverbial Count Matula heart for Mojave in 2018. But Apple knew where it was going to go, and it probably knew that NVIDIA was not going to be a part of their plans in the future, that their video card roadmap involved only ATI cards until at the Apple Silicon transition. So why string these people along? I don't know. Seems maybe like you could have done it, but they seem to have been phasing out NVIDIA cards across the line at that time anyway.
Well, I mean, if you believe insider information from Apple, engineers have claimed that Apple didn't really have to do anything. They just had to accept code that NVIDIA wrote.
Yeah.
And, well, I think you're right. That's part of it. Part of the motivation is they didn't need NVIDIA. They haven't ever needed them, really. Like, NVIDIA GPUs are the better GPUs in the market right now. That's just the way it is.
That's just the way it is.
But AMD GPUs are fine. They're good enough for most things. And Apple's, Apple computers are not gaming computers. So you don't need all the gaming performance that an RTX card, for instance, can provide you.
Mm-hmm.
So it was never necessary. But I think this is not, I don't know this as a fact, but just based on everything I've read about the relationship over the years, I think someone at Apple really has it out for them.
Yeah, they were there when Apple got screwed, and
time again.
And knowing what the future lied ahead for Apple, this was maybe their last FU to NVIDIA.
Yeah, they dug their claws into their paws and said, "Long live the king," and then let NVIDIA fall off the cliff.
It was a hell of a Jeremy Irons impression.
But much like Simba.
What?
NVIDIA returns. To strike back.
And you know what NVIDIA's slogan is? Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata. It means no worries.
It means fast GPUs for the rest of your days.
What was NVIDIA's October surprise? September.
NVIDIA puts in a bid to buy ARM Holdings.
Wah, wah, wah.
And this may or may not make much of a difference for Apple, depending on how their silicon is structured.
Right, because they're claiming that they're going to keep ARM neutral. That it's still going to be a licensor of the software, same as it ever has been.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're claiming.
Right. And we don't know to what extent Apple silicon chips are based, like how far away from an ARM chipset they are. I mean, we know that the core is ARM design, but obviously Apple's hacking the Gibson to put its own stuff in there. So
yeah, chopping the screw in. Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, they still have to pay the license fee.
That's true.
And they literally just started transitioning their entire desktop operating system over to that chipset, not to mention that all their mobile devices depend on it. So there's nothing they can do.
Right.
And at the end of the day, money will solve all problems.
Yeah, NVIDIA is going to get its cut.
Yep.
One way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Come hell or high water, as we say.
Now, of course, this is not a done deal yet. It's still sort of pending regulatory review.
You know what's a done deal?
What's that, Chip?
My annulment. I got married in Vegas last year.
Chip, you're not really adding a whole lot in terms of historical perspective this episode. But I'm happy to hear that. I'm sorry.
Chip history's made mistakes. Sorry.
Chip history can't forget those mistakes on account of his fantabulous memory.
On account of my level 2 cache.
Chip history has over 32 megabytes of L2 cache.
So this is it as far as we know for Apple and NVIDIA, but I don't necessarily think that's the end. We have on the horizon these new Apple Silicon Macs, and we don't know what Apple's Pro strategy is going to be. Are they going to use high-power GPUs? Are they going to use their own? Or are they going to use a combination of both, like what they do right now with the Intel onboard graphics and the discrete GPUs for the MacBook Pros?
Will an ARM owned by NVIDIA produce new integrations that make it sort of the best option?
Right. Will Apple end up using NVIDIA-based chips in its Macs because that hardware stack aligns correctly once again?
What's old is new. The past is the future.
Yes.
Days of Future Past. Chip History 3.
You really want that title.
I just want it so bad. It's not going to work. Yeah, and despite that, I think this is a good bit of chip history to review, because like the other chip history episodes we've done, it shows mainly how much Apple hates relying on third parties and describes their motivations for where they are now. Well, folks, that's going to do it for a very confused episode of Memory Protection.
Blah.
In October 2000. If for some reason you would like to talk to us, you can find us on Twitter using the handle @MemProShow. Or you could, of course, throw us an electronic message using the address memoryprotectionshow@gmail.com. You can boot up our website, Netscape 6. If you go to memoryprotection.show, use keyword memory protection. Remember that? Keywords?
Yep.
Thanks again. Recommendations after the song.
Oh, don't forget to vote. It's in like 2 days if you're listening to this on release day.
Oh, yeah. Just please go vote.
For Joe Biden.
Yeah, you vote for Joe Biden.
Don't vote for Donald Trump.
Okay. Oh, can you give me a good wolf? I need to think of a good local access channel like Shock Jock, like movie Monster Mash, movie block host name.
Oh, well, you got something brewing?
A witch's woo? Yeah, I think that should be how we present this. Is
Okay. So who's our guy?
I will be. Well, I guess we did already do names, didn't we?
Josh McDeath and Count Matula.
Yes. Okay. Welcome, traveler. Welcome to the curious cabinet of nope. Welcome to our Hall of Wonders. I am, of course, your host, Josh McDeath, and I'm joined by my ghoulish compatriot, Count Matula.
Blair, I want to kill your family.
Today on our... I can't say ghoulish again. Today on our ghastly... Today for our ghastly repertoire of monstrous culture, we have two delectable choices for your viewing pleasure. You want to start us off, Count?
Yeah, but I can't do the voice. It's just going to be a bad Russian thing.
Yeah, probably. Anyways, this is recommendations where we talk about culture from back then.
Happy Halloween recommendations.
Spooky, scary, spooky, hairy.
Okay, I'm going to go first.
You have the floor.
This month, I'm bringing a Japanese role-playing video game for my recommendation. It is a game called Skies of Arcadia. It was released on the Sega Dreamcast. It is awesome. You play as a sky pirate. You're trying to, it's pretty standard JRPG stuff, but you get to fly around. It's like all the best parts of the original Final Fantasy games, but it's all sky pirating, island hopping.
You get to fly around in an airship?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
You've played this.
Skies of Arcadia?
Yeah, haven't you?
No.
Really?
No, I didn't have a Dreamcast.
It was on the GameCube.
I didn't have a GameCube.
What?
I had an NES. That was basically it for a long time. And then I had a PS2.
I was going to say you had a PS2. We just found out in this episode you had a PS2.
That's true.
Anyway, it's a really just a really pretty well built game.
What's the story like?
I mean, standard JRPG fare.
Yeah, you got to stop the great evil.
Yeah, there's an evil, and you basically have to rescue like a moon princess. And
standard RPG fare.
Yeah, I mean, it's not anything special in terms of storyline, but I think it was sort of like the first JRPG that really like hooked me in a way that I could stick with.
Oh, neat.
I don't love RPGs. I really sort of bounce off them very quickly.
Yeah, you prefer games where you just have to drive a forklift around.
Yeah, and I can like look in some cabinets and stuff.
Yeah, that kind of really like edge of your seat action.
Yeah, exactly. Stay tuned next month.
All right.
What's yours, Josh?
Let's talk about some real shit. I am bringing for my piece of culture Digimon the movie, which is a film that came out in October 2000, as you know.
Josh, what's a Digimon?
A Digimon is a digital monster, a digital mon, if you will.
Is it pocket-sized?
No, it is not. It is digital. They're digital monsters. They turn into digital champions to save the digital world.
What about the real world? Is there a real world component to Digimon?
Yes. And in fact, this is part of what attracted to me to Digimon as a kid. It actually has a lot of weird and cool world building going on. Just to briefly, the original series, a bunch of kids go to a summer camp and they get sucked into a portal into the digital world, which is all the detritus of the internet has compacted and created this alternate universe with like sentient beings in it. And there's monsters, they're like collectible monsters, sort of like Pokemon.
So these kids go to hell.
These kids die and go to hell and are tormented by Mons.
Digimons.
Yeah, it was really pretty dark for Fox Kids.
Was it really?
No.
Okay.
No, it's a pretty light adventure fare. Although it was differentiated from Pokemon in that in terms of a TV property, it was not episodic. It had a ongoing story where characters changed and grew.
That's nice.
And I watched this when I was a kid, and this is really the first kind of thing like that I ever watched. Most cartoons there's one episode, there's a certain plot goal in that episode, some joke, and that's it, and there's no continuity. The shows where like things actually happen and change and there's continuity, that's more common today, but it wasn't so much back then. Despite that, Digimon was not always the favorite of the world. It's pretty much always played second fiddle to Pokemon, and it really kind of doesn't exist anymore.
How is the theme song?
It's really good. It's incredible. I could probably still sing a lot of it today. The first series was quite popular though, and did well enough that on the heels of two successful Pokemon movies, Fox over on our side of the pond decided that they wanted to try to do the same thing with Digimon. So they decided to release a feature-length film, but they didn't want to spend any money on it.
Why would you? I mean, this is a Saban Entertainment jam, right?
Yes. So like all great American anime adaptations, instead of making something new and good, they just combined three shorter things into a sort of confused mishmash.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's three movies combined into one.
Does it make sense?
So I don't remember anything about the plot other than I thought it was incredibly cool when I was like 8 or 10 or whatever.
Do the Mons look good?
Yeah, they looked awesome. Nice. I remember part of what appealed to me was that it followed, at least in sections, the characters you had known, but they had all grown up a little bit. Oh, I see. It was like you were getting some like character growth, and then there was new characters. It sort of transitioned into their next series. It was a bridge plot.
Is that how they differentiated the three different films, or weaved in the different films?
More or less. So the three films were like, they were shorts that had been made, not shorts, but like shorter sort of length pieces that had been made for Toei animation fairs, where they would do these sort of like bespoke movies to kind of display their different properties. And Fox just said, hey, those look good.
Jam them together.
Yeah. Despite this, and really, really poor critical reviews, which of course don't matter to kids, the film did really well.
Yeah, how well?
16 million at box office, which doesn't seem like much, but it tripled its budget.
I mean, that's a win.
Yeah, it's a win. Other notable things about it: had a very interesting soundtrack.
Yeah.
Some key tracks are "Kids in America" by Len, which I just thought was. That was like amazing to me as a kid.
That's a choice.
Yeah. 1 Week by Bare Naked Ladies, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Another good choice.
And as is required by law, All Star by Smash Mouth.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Just to review, of course, all movies between 1999 and 2002 had to have All Star in it.
Yeah. Lord of the Rings, all three.
Just that opening shot on the Shire, much that once was is forgotten.
Gandalf,
hey
an
now,
all-star.
It's not something I've gone back to review, mostly because I know it will be bad, and I'd rather have the good memories than the knowledge. I guess.
Do you think it's going to be worse than revisiting Prince of Egypt?
I haven't done that either.
I thought you did.
No.
Or were you were presented with the opportunity and you declined it?
I don't remember that.
Well, we talked about it, and you said that
You're thinking of Road to El Dorado.
That's what it is.
Which I did watch, and it was terrible.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, do you think it would compare favorably on a rewatch to your comparison of Road to El Dorado?
So this is a huge tangent, but I love the anime series Robotech.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Same. Also known as Macross, right?
Also known as 3 different animes that got squashed together.
Right.
So while I think that this movie would probably be really bad and confused, there's a chance it could reach the pinnacle of excellence that Robotech does.
How many robots are in Digimon?
More than you would think.
All right, I'm on board. I'll watch this movie.
I'm going to cut this out, but Digimon is really cool.
Okay. You mean you don't have to cut it out? If you like it, that's cool.
I've talked too much about Digimon. Okay. I've said too much.
I've made mistakes. Yeah, and sorry,
Just tearing up.
No, I have post nasal drip. It sucks.
Yeah, I know. I get it. It's really emotional.
It's like tears of snot in the back of my throat.
Time to die. Attack ship's on fire.
Oh, C-beams glistening off the Tannhauser Gate.
That's right. See, I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
Post nasal drip in the back of my throat.
It's a shame I can't breathe. But then who does?
Oh, man. I can't remember what I was going to say.